It's Julie Young for Korean American Story and Not Your Average. We are on location in Philadelphia.
Yeah. What's
with
up?
Chris Cho at Seorabol.
Seorabol, baby. What's up?
Chris, I'm so excited to be here. Let's like get the soju going.
Start with some soju.
Pretend like we didn't already have some.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so Chris and I met through Danny Chung. Danny, you should be here now. I'm like really upset that you're not.
Yeah, Danny's a great friend. He's a great connector. I think half the people in this room
right, come back. Yeah, off camera.
knows through Danny. JL.
All here through Danny. Cheers. Come back.
Come back.
Thanks for having us. All right, Chris. This has been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really excited to be here. Seorabol, your father and your grandfather. No, your
My
father and your
father.
uncle started it. How many years ago?
About good 16 years ago. To be honest, we were never really counting because we've been in it for a while, but about good 15, 16 years.
So you grew up in the restaurant business?
Yeah, so we had this spot for 15, 16 years, but we had another restaurant for like 7, 8 years.
Where?
This is in like Northeast Philadelphia.
Okay.
And then we just expanded to a bigger spot.
All right, so
Yeah.
you were born where?
Korea. I was born in Korea.
And how old were you when you came here?
Maybe like 7 or 8.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I started at first grade here, and I hated it being a first grader when I was 8. So I was beating everybody up. You know?
Oh, but so you remember that, like when you came here?
I did, yeah.
And all that.
To me, going to school was exciting because I got to eat like American food. Like, you know how people say school food is like bad,
What
you
does
know?
that mean, like burgers and fries? Like,
Yeah, to me, I never had burgers and fries ever in my life. You know, it was like, I was like, yes, I don't gotta eat mom's food anymore.
Why did your parents come here?
For a better life, you know, like I actually didn't have my dad around growing up. He was gone for like good 3-4 years. He was in Iraq for a little bit. They flew him out, so he was there. And he used to cook for like, I don't know, I guess couple hundred Koreans there because they needed to eat Korean food as well, you know.
So he's always been a chef, he's always been a cook. your dad.
Ever since I was born, my dad and mom was a chef, you know, like, which I never grew up thinking it was cool. It was just like, that's their job.
Because I
But
know you never really thought you were going to get into the restaurant.
no, never. Or my parents never wanted me to get into it because they work so hard. You know, this job is like, you gotta grind 12 hours a day. Much as people think being a chef is amazing and cool, it's like you gotta stand on your feet 12 hours a day.
And when did you decide to join the family business?
It wasn't even like much of a choice. I don't have this crazy story behind it, but it was more like my mom was going to Korea and I was like running my own business then, and she's like, can you cover for me in the front? And I was just helping out a little bit, but I think my dad, he was just working so intensely at one point. He went to the hospital, like emergency. So I was just there like, man, what can I do to help him? And I was like, hey, why don't I just jump in the kitchen on my free time to help him out a little bit, you know, like.
And how many years ago was that?
It's about like 5-6 years ago. It's weird, this is like weird that I say with my own, you know, like, but I was really like nice with it, you know, and I was just like, and I enjoyed it too. I was like, fuck, how come I never wanted to do this before,
Right.
you know, like.
Because you have no formal training or anything.
No.
All your chef skills you learned from your dad.
Exactly,
Or uncle.
yeah. And my mom. I mean, just at home, I just knew how to cook Korean food, you know.
No, but like a man who can cook, that's
That's how I
yeah, the
get,
ladies
that's how,
like that.
you know, that's how,
Ladies like
that's what I tell the girls, you know, like.
So you did not actually finish high school in the traditional manner.
No,
correct?
not at all.
So talk to me about that.
You know, it's funny, I got kicked out like 6 months before I graduated, so it was like bullshit. I was so mad.
Come on.
You know, I think I'm a pretty positive person now. When I was young, I was the most negative person too. Like, I went to take an SAT, and then the teacher was like, oh, you're not allowed to flip back. But I was so negative. I'm like, you're telling me I'm fucking cheating? Fuck you then. And I just walked out. I literally just walked out. I ripped my paper, and I was like, fuck you, God, I'm trying to do best, and you ain't never there for me. I was so negative back in the days, you know, like, I felt like everybody was against me. Much as all the positive energy and the things that I do now, I'm very thankful that I'm living the way I am, because it could have turned up to be the bad energy, you know, like, which trips me out too, but.
And do you think joining the family restaurant business was sort of a turn for you?
I mean, I think I matured up by then anyways, but I think I took it to the next level of becoming more and more Koreanized. I took off my earrings working here. I stopped wearing necklace, like my rings. And at first I was like, man, fuck that. But later on, it's like, man, I'm here serving for the customers. And I had to change. Like, there's a stereotype that all, like the elders have, and there's no way to change that. But instead of me being an idiot trying to fight, like be a rebel and fight against that, I said, hey, what can I do to be liked by the elders as well? And I wasn't trying to like spit on my parents' face either, you know? But I learned to be really calm here, like really calm. And the truth is, I don't think the kid I was when I was 18 would like me right now.
But I think that's kind of always the case. Hopefully we're all a lot more mature
We
than
all
we were
grow
at
up,
18, right? But so you know what, we were just filming some B-roll with you and your dad in the kitchen, and I personally, honestly, I was so moved by that because, you know, as an adoptee, we got issues. But like sometimes I get really struck by intense like Korean family moments. And it, you know, there are a couple of reasons for it, like just seeing both of you together working side by side, but also thinking of what your dad went through to build this business. I mean, it's hard work in that kitchen. You know, you're on your feet, like you said, 12, 14 hours a day. It's loud, it's noisy, it's like lots of stuff, fast paced and all that stuff. Like it was pretty intense for me. Like I got a little emotional. Do you ever, you know, I mean, you're so busy when you're in there, but what's that like for you to work, you know, side by side with your dad? And
I think when I'm in the kitchen, we never think about it. We don't have time to get emotional.
So
we have to get it going, you know? But being in the restaurant, I think about it more like, damn, he did so much for me. Then where I gain my, like when I get empowered is I'm like, damn, he did it for 40 some years, you know? And I'm like, damn, I'm bitching.
he's still doing it.
Yeah.
He's still doing it.
Being in the restaurant, I got to really see everything. I try my best to be his best friend. Like when he goes home, after all this troublesome, he needs a friend to talk.
So now, you know, you bring this whole new young energy to your family business, right? You've got, I don't know how many followers on your, like, your mukbangers, your Facebook page, your Instagram, all your YouTube, all that stuff. Are they're aware of that you're doing, like your dad's aware of all that stuff you're doing?
He likes it.
Think?
He likes it. You know, like even the other day, he was like, hey, the 2 councilmen and women came up to me and they're like, hey, I'm, you know, like very proud of your son. He took a video and we're on it, your future.
For Korean American Day?
Yeah, exactly.
I saw that. That was sweet.
But I love that too, because it used to upset me the fact that I used to embarrass my mom in front of her friends that I was a high school dropout. But now I feel so happy that my parents take my dad doesn't know how to share stuff, so he shared to 100 people individually as my video. You know, that's pretty like intense, you know, like, but that's so much love.
So
he does this to
sweet,
every video. I bet he's gonna share this. I'm not trying to be somebody in New York and LA. I'm trying to continue to rep here because most of the talent in Philly leave to New York and LA. That's why I don't think we grow big enough. And I feel like my life is like an underdog story, because being Korean is an underdog in America. Being from Philly is an underdog story. So I'm like fighting all motherfuckers. I'm like, fuck it, let's go. And I feel like video is the only thing that I could do to reach out to the people. Like, yo, I'm out here grinding just like y'all. I basically want my kids to grow up a lot cooler than I was. Like, when I was young, when we used to have to pack kimbap, which is like a sushi roll, so I would actually kind of like hide and eat it, you know, like.
Because you were embarrassed?
I was. It's like it was new, you know? Like, they're like, what are you eating? And I used to just fight when they just asked me, like, what are you eating? What the fuck you say? Like, I was just insecure, like, man, you know, like, but I want Korean food and Korean culture to be a point that it's like, oh, you eat sushi? My mom and my dad took me out to a sushi restaurant. I want my kids to grow up, like, I want all the Korean Americans, just like all of us, to grow up more confident at what we're doing. And if I could be a 1% change to that, not even 1%, you know, whatever it could be to move to the next step for the next generation, I think that would mean a lot. And I feel like we all have to work on it right now. And even right now, like how we're shooting through this and everything else that we're doing, it might not even make an impact sometimes, or maybe it might make an impact, but we just gotta keep doing it, you know, like, cause who else then, you know? Danny always says that, if not us, who else?
All right, Chris, thank you so much. Let's do another
Yeah.
one last shot together. before we have
Ooh.
like an entire dinner. But thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Come back.
How you feel? Feel like I'm Superman. Feel like I'm feeling it. Feel I'ma do my thing. How you feel? Feel like $1,000,000. Feeling so fly. I'll never feel like falling. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. Yeah, I got a feeling.